and which made him also a descendant of David HaMelech. And the Nasi, as we said, is like he was the leader of the country, and he was the most powerful person of his time. He also was exceptionally wealthy. But what was Rebbe's godless after all that? He had money, he had power. When Rebbe was passing away on his deathbed, people were surrounding him, and he picked up his two hands, and he said, none of these fingers enjoyed Olam Hazeh, meaning as much as I had, and as much as I could have had, and as powerful as I was, which means I really could have done anything I wanted. I could have said anything I wanted. Nobody could have stopped me. And I could have gone in any way I wanted because I had all the money. Yet, I devoted my whole life to serving Klal Yisrael and the Rebbeinu Shalom. Or the Rebbeinu Shalom, which in turn was the way he served Klal Yisrael. So Rebbe really was the one that didn't enjoy Klal Yisrael, didn't enjoy Olam Hazeh. He enjoyed it part, but in the gufia, in the general enjoyments that we know as enjoyments, a good piece of steak or a good piece of cake or a wonderful trip or anything like that, that was not his goal in life, and he did not enjoy Olam Hazeh. And he said that these fingers are witness, he says, that I didn't enjoy this world. Now, why am I saying all this? Rebbe was considered, the Gemara says in Saita, Mishemes Rebbe is Batla Anava. There was no person that had the same humbleness on earth. That was after we had all those generations of the Zugais, the pairs of the Siyam, and all the generations of Rabbanan and the Anshiknes, like the still, yet there was nobody that was as humble as Rebbe since Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's why Rebbe had this chus to save Klal Yisrael and to save the Torah. And he did that, of course, with the permission of the Rabbanan, because even as a Nasi, he would never do anything that, I said that it was up to that point, you were not able to write down anything. Although what they used to do is they did make little notes for themselves, that they were allowed to do. But to write down complete halachas as we know it today, all these sforim that are written, there was nothing written, everything was memorized. So the Rabbanan saw that he gave him the permission to do it, and he wrote Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, the Mishnayos. And what are the Mishnayos? The 6 different parts. Each one has its own function, its own halachas, its own properties. It has to do with, one has to do with money, one has to do with marriage and issues. And all of these different tum and tahara. Each one has its own section. And Rebbe wrote this all down. So he's saying that Rebbe was the most humble, although he was the most powerful and the wealthiest person of his generation. So now, if you're going to ask anybody advice, how should I behave? He is the man that we should be listening to, because he had everything, and yet he followed the rules. He did everything that was proper. But he says a very important thing, something that we should all know. And I'm going to go into the Mishneh now. And he says a lot in this one Mishneh, he packs in a lot. He says, what's the proper way? What's the proper path? Derech is a path, is a way that a person should choose for himself. So I'm just going to say the first section. Kol shehi teferes lo iseho v'seferes lo min ha'adam. Anything that when teferes is, we know is pe'er. Pe'er is beautify. Anything that will beautify the person that is doing it. And so it's teferes lo iseho. It's for the person who is, it's a credit, is the way they teach it. It's a credit to himself, and it's a credit to his fellow man. Now, what does that mean? What is he saying over here? First of all, he doesn't ask the question, what is, he asks, which is the proper path, which means he doesn't, we have a Torah. What do you mean? What are you saying? Or what are you giving us how a person should behave? It says in the Torah how a person should behave. No, that's not what he says. Because he says there are many different ways that you could serve the Rebbeinu Shalom. You have people that do things that to you look odd, but they do it to Shem Shemayim. And if they do it to Shem Shemaim, that's a proper way. That's what he's saying. He says everybody has to find a way, a groove, so to speak, in his life that he should follow. And the Rambam says, what should he be doing? The way he should behave is the middle way. Too much on one side, too much to the right, too much to the left is wrong. Now you would think the big tzaddik, he's going to do everything so proper that he's going to fast and he's going to, no, that's not what Rebbe says. Rebbe says a person should act. Now that's the next word. Teferes loisev, teferes leminodom. When a person walks into a shul and he sees a guy and he's shuckling, or a guy goes outside and he does something that's even doing it l'shem shemaim, but in such a way that he looks odd, then he's not doing the right thing, according to Rebbe. Rebbe says the person should choose something that's not weird, not odd. Do it the way that everybody else is doing it, of course, in a proper way, in a tzniustic way. And that is the chiddush of Rebbe. Now, last week's parsha in the Haftorah, there's an interesting story, and everybody knows this story. It's a story of the birth of Shimshon HaGibor. And what is the Torah? What is the parsha? The Tanakh? What does he say over there? And it says like this: that Shim's mother was her name was Tziliparnis, had met him, saw in a vision, saw a malach. She saw a malach. I mean, that's amazing. That's like a vision that we would say is an aviyah. So she was an aviyah actually, because she saw at least one aviyah. And she says, the malach tells her that she is going to have a child, and she should raise him in a holy way like a nazir. And that's the reason why we have it in this parsha, because the previous parsha also speaks about the halachas of a nazir. What is a nazir? A nazir says, I don't want to enjoy this world to the fullest extent, so I'm going to back away. I won't drink wine. Wine is something that is you can get drunk and act stupid. I won't cut my hair. And in that case, there's an Indian of Kedusha, and he's not allowed to be Metame. He's not allowed to, if Chas v'Shalom, anybody passes away in the family, he's not allowed to go to the Levaya. That's the way he should be raised, Shimshon HaGibor. Now she comes home, this Tziliparnis, and she tells it to her husband, Manoach, his name was. And she says, I had a vision and I met a malach. And she tells the husband this interesting dream that she had. Technically, they used to have them in dreams. Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that saw face to face. And Manoach says, what are you talking about? This is weird, right? She says, but I'm telling you, I saw a dream. She says, I want to meet that guy. I want to see what he says. Because he says, I'm going to have a son and I should raise him like a nazir. What's going on over here? So he goes and davens to Hashem that the malach should come back. He asks for the malach. And sure enough, the Rebbeinu Shem listens to her tefillah, and the malach comes back and meets her, and she says, let me go get my husband. She gets Manoach, and Manoach comes and starts talking to the malach. And he says, what do you want from me? How are you telling me I'm going to have a son? What am I supposed to do for this son? So the malach says, everything I told her is what you should do. And he disappears. What was the purpose of his coming? So the Farshim asks, what's the purpose of his coming? All he said was everything I told her. He basically validated everything that he told her. For that, he believed that there was a malach, because otherwise he wouldn't have told her, let me see. But he didn't understand. So what did he accomplish, the malach, by saying everything I told her you should do? So this teretz is about what Avos is about, and what Rebbe is saying. The Melech Manoach, listen to me. I want you to raise your son as a nazir. And Manoach says, raise my son as a nazir. How can I raise my son as a nazir? He's going to come home. I'm going to make kiddush. I'm going to make it on wine. And halacha is if you see another, you're not allowed to drink wine in front of him because you're going to make him a little bit want to drink wine. So if somebody does something to technically, if the blind person is walking in the street, you got to make sure he stumble in a hole. So you have to be very careful. You're not allowed to let the nazir stumble in his naziris. So you're not allowed to drink wine in front of a nazir. So what am I supposed to do? Says the Malach, very, very important words. Whatever I told your wife is what I want you to do. You should do everything I told your wife. You should do, not you should do in a way that I told her. No, you, Manoach, become a Nazir. And that's what Avos is about. If you want to are behaving, and that's the way the child is going to behave. Because if you're going to do things, as I said once before, and you're going to do things that are improper, your child, even if you think he doesn't know, he knows. So that's what the Malach was telling Manoach, and that's why Manoach was told, once he was told that he has to become a Nazir, he became a Nazir. And therefore Shimshon, as he grew up as a child, saw that this is the way of life. And when he made Kiddush, he makes Kiddush on Challah. A Nazir makes Kiddush on Challah. He doesn't make Kiddush on wine. In fact, I remember a fantastic story just comes to me about a fellow in Yerushalayim who was a big Baal Tzedakah, but he wasn't wealthy. But whatever he had, he used to give out. And a person, one of the people who took the Chesed organization, always knew if they needed something that came over to him. One day they meet him in the street and they have a very, very important, I think it was a couple that had to get married, and there was nothing at the house, and please, you got to help them. And I think the mother was an almana, and there was no money and there was nothing around. Yerushalayim was very poor in those days. And he says, I'll tell you the truth, I don't have any money. It was before Shabbos. And he says, I really don't. All I have for myself, he says, is lechem mishnasu bolkolach. He says, and wine. So he says, okay, you don't have, and he walks away. He walks away, and the fellow's on his way home, and he says, how could I walk away? There's a collar here with an almana. He says, you're supposed to help an almana. The Torah is very strict about taking care of an almana. How could I not help this almana? He goes out, and he goes to a gemach. He borrows money from a gemach, enough to help the almana, and he comes running with the money. The man says, what happened? I thought you had no money. He says, I took care of it. I took no worry about it. I was able to get that, scratched it together. I was able to get it, and he gives it and doesn't tell him where he got the money from. And that was the story. When this man passed away, the family was sitting shiva, and somehow the story came out about this story where he went to the gemach to get money, and a nephew pops up and he says, wow, I never understood something that always bothered me my whole life. He says, what? He says, I was once eating their Shabbos and then another Shabbos, and I noticed he always made Kiddush on challah. He didn't make Kiddush on wine. And it always disturbed me because when you have an ability to make, if it's wine and challah, we all know we're supposed to pick wine first. It's the chashiva thing. But we're supposed to cover the challah because you're not going to embarrass the challah. But if there's no wine, you make challah. But on the other hand, is the first choice is wine, as we all know. So he says, this is what happened. The man calculated that if he, instead of buying wine for the next 16 years, he'll put the money that he would buy for wine and put it away so he should pay back the gemach. The man borrowed money to make a wedding for an almana that wasn't related to him, for a girl, for almana's child, and he subjected himself to make kiddush. He's like, make kiddush on challah. If I don't have wine, so every week's dollar that it would cost him a bottle of wine, he paid back the gemach, and it took him 16 years to pay back this gemach. This came to me when saying how another. This is how you learn from people in Yerushalayim on how to behave. Something that he takes a mitzvah in his hand and he just couldn't let it go. But Rebbe says, Eze hi derech isha ish yavel adam. which way are you supposed to behave as what path are you supposed to take? He says a very interesting lesson. He says, Kol shehi teferis lo iseho, v'teferis lo min ha'adam, as I said before. The word teferis, as I said, means beautifying. Now, when a person does something outside the house, say, that's not proper, he does things that are not right, he obviously, it's a chil Hashem. What does a chil Hashem means? That he's mechal the shem shemaim. Everybody looks at him, this guy with the yarmulke? This guy with the yarmulke, what are you talking about? You see what he did yesterday? Well, who does it reflect on? It reflects on the Rebbeinu Shalom. So he didn't, Tiferes Lo'iseha, they darshan, it should be beautiful to the Rebbeinu Shalom, who created him, Lo'iseha, the person who created him. Because if he does something that's improper, it's not going to be a credit and it's not going to be beautified to the Rebbeinu Shalom, which in turn, Tiferes Lo'imina Adam. If he's going to do the right thing that's supposed to be done for the Rebbeinu Shalom, then it's going to be perfect. When he meets people in the street, they're going to look at him and they're going to say, that's who you have to strive to be like. You can turn to your child, you can say, see that man? You see the tzedakah he gives? You see the way he davens? He doesn't speak by davening. You see how he behaves? That's the person he's going to be. People are going to want to be his friend. People are going to want to attach themselves to him. He's going to be beautiful to Rebbeinu Shalom, which in turn will make him beautiful to Hashem himself. The pshat of Tiferes Lo Yisrael is, as I said, has a few different pshatim. You find Gedolim, every time you look at people who are considered the Gadol B'Yisrael, the Gadol B'Yisrael was always a gentle person. It was very rare you found somebody who was like Reb Moshe, Reb Yaakov, Reb Kotler in my generation, and today's generation, the Stipler who used to, and the Chazon Ish and Chaim Kanievsky. They sit down, and they absorb what people want, and they give advice, and you listen to him. Why do you listen to him? Because he is like Rebbe. He is a person that will advise you the way he behaves. And by him, the way he behaves, as I said, is in such a wonderful way that you want to emulate what he's doing, and everything he tells you, you're going to listen. And that's why we go to such gedolim. When we talk about the Nazir in the last parasha and Shimshon Agiva, you know, a Nazir has to bring a chatas. A chatas is a carbon that you bring when you have a sin. If somebody does a sin inadvertently, you bring a chatas. Now, the question is, why does a Nazir bring a chatas? What he wanted to do is get closer to Hashem. He said, I won't drink wine. And I won't be matam. I'll keep myself in kedusha. I won't become tamei. The reason is because of Rebbe. Rebbe says, you picked the wrong spot. It's true. What you did, it was a special thing. You wanted to get close to Rebbeinu Shalom. But what you did was, you took something that the Rebbeinu Shalom says, and like wine, such a beautiful drink that you make a bracha on, and you say, I can't handle it. I'm afraid I'll drink too much wine and I'll become a drunk. Or I want to look good, so I'm gonna look at take haircut in a certain way that I'll be cool outside. So therefore, you're gonna grow your hair in a loose and ugly way. And you're not allowed to, a person who is a Nazir is actually not allowed to use a comb in his hair, because if he pulls out a hair from his head, he's over a lot. That's one of the things he's not going to do. He's over, because that's part of being a Nazir. You have to let your hair grow a little bit wild. It shouldn't look beautiful. Now, there was a Kohen Gadol, one of the last Kohanim Gedolim, I forget which one it was, but I remember he was for 40 years Kohen Gadol. And he said, the 40 years that I was Kohen Gadol, the Chatas the portion that the kohen, you shech the carbon, and the kohen eats from the chatas. He does, the person who shechs it doesn't get to eat from it. He gives the rest of the animal to the chatas, and they eat this as they eat a steak. They eat steak. The kohanim eat meat. The kohen gadol never ever participated in any chatas, and the kohen gadol could take anything he wants. He has the first option in any single carbon that's given, and he never participated in the eating of any of the chatas from a nazir. And they asked him why. He said, only one time in my life did I do that. And the Gemara brings the story. And the Gemara says that he always felt that he did it, that somebody became a nazir, he went too far. He went too far to the right. He should have stayed more central. He said, except for one nazir. He said, there was a young boy came to me, and he said, I want to bring a carbon chatas for a nazir. And I asked him, why did you become a nazir? And he said, I became a nazir because I was a shepherd. And I looked in, as I brought the sheep to drink by a pool of water. I looked into this pool of water. Apparently there were maybe no mirrors in those days, or he didn't have a mirror. And I saw my reflection. And I realized, which he had never seen before, that I'm very, very, very good looking. And I was afraid that people will see me, and because I'm so good looking, I'm going to end up doing things that I'm not going to do, improper things. So I decided that the only way for me is to be manable myself, to make myself not look as good. So I let my hair grow, and I became a nazir. So this kohen gadol, this person did it really, l'shem shamayim, 100%, and therefore he ate only from this one. So now doing something, as Rebbe says, is very key to do something that is the first loy servant, the first living adam, because a person has to behave in a way that when you look at him, he brings a kiddush Hashem. You have an option of how to behave. Don't take the weird way out. It's the Pirkei part. Do the right thing. Rebbe continues in the Mishneh. V'hevazor b'mitzvah kala k'b'chamura. Sheinata yidei matan schar shal mitzvahs. The Rebbeinu Shloim says, gives you many different mitzvahs. You have a mitzvah of tzitzis. You have a mitzvah of Yom Kippur. You have a mitzvah of Tkiyah Shofar. Now, in your mind, Tkiyah Shofar, everybody runs the shul. Everybody does things. But the Rebbe says, you think that the of a mitzvah, Tkiyah Shofar, is so much greater than the mitzvah of tzitzis, which is put this on and you forget about it for the whole day. I'm just picking that mitzvah because it's the simplest mitzvah a person can have. He just puts on this beged. Okay, in the summer it feels a little bit of the extra beged, but at the end of the day, it's a mitzvah that is very simple. You just put it on, you forget about it. And Tkiyah Shofar, you make achanas, the fasting in Yom Kippur. He says, no, don't say, I want to only do the mitzvahs and the other mitzvahs I'll ignore. Because you don't know matan schar and the schar of the mitzvah that you're going to get. And then he finishes, we have a mechashev hefsid mitzvah connected schara, the schar ver connected the ver. You should just make a calculation that if you don't do a mitzvah, what are you losing by not doing the mitzvah? In other words, let's say you're doing an avera, chas v'sholom. At the time you're doing the avera, says the Chafetz Chaim, you could have been doing a mitzvah. So you're not only going to get punished for not doing the mitzvah, you're going to be punished for the time that you did the mitzvah, the avera that you could have done a mitzvah. So that's what the Chafetz Chaim finishes up with this Mishneh. And I'm going to finish with this very, very interesting story that I saw. And I happened to look through some of these things that I've written years back. And it's an amazing story. And it's good to listen to it and maybe spend another few minutes, but just a few minutes. During the concentration camp, there was a Holocaust survivor right after that. And his name, it was a Rav in Yerushalayim, his name was a Unger. And he says, I have an unbelievable story to tell you, and I had a dream, and you have to help me. I don't know what to do. He says, what happened? He says, when I was in concentration camp, it was before Pesach, and I wanted to have matzah. And I knew that a certain area outside the camp that I can get flour. And I did everything I possibly can to somehow get hold of that flour. When I went on my work, they used to walk out of the concentration camp, and he used to put a little bit of flour in the seam of his pants, so you wouldn't notice it. And every day he brought back a little bit of flour, and there he'd bring it into and he would gather it, and eventually he had enough to make three matzahs. Three matzahs. And sure, beautiful. So they're able to have. Now, a friend of his was he had told us this to a friend that that's what he's doing, and they were like planning it together. Now, this friend was of a family of Rabbanim. He was very chashuv. Had he didn't make it through the war. Had he made it through the war, he would have been one of the Shiva Rabbanim because he was a very chashuv man. And he said he kept goading him, help me, let's do it. If we can have the mitzvah of matzah, that's unbelievable. Even a place like this. Sure enough, he accomplished. He was able to put together the matzah, and they went and they found a can, and they did it, and they did some whatever they can, all hidden in a way that, of course, if they would get caught, they would kill him. And he accomplished, and he was able to bake three matzahs. As he was carrying the matzahs back from where he had baked it, he put it under his clothing that he was wearing. They were thin clothing, and a Nazi saw him. He says, "What do you got under there?" And the guy he worked, by the way, 2 months to do this, and he panicked, and he started to run. And the Nazi, and he pulled out when he saw what he had, and he realized immediately what it was, and he stomped on the matzah. And he figured they're not going to kill him. I know what he went through to do this. And he stomped on the matzah to make it into bits. And the man is watching his 3 months or 2 to 3 months of work go down the drain. Tears are running down because this is all Shem Shemayim in a place that was pure hell. And he was able to make matzah. And then here the Nazi took it away in 1 minute, the 3 months work. The Nazi walks away smirking. And he gets down on the floor, this man, and he starts to gather enough to make one kazayas matzah, which would be the mitzvah. He puts together, he stomped it enough, but it was always a little pieces. He was able to put together one kazayas matzah. He comes back and he tells the man with tears that this is what the Nazi did. And I was able to gather one kazayas matzah. And this other man turns to him, and that night was Pesach. And he says, listen to me, he says, I beg you, let me have that matzah. Let me do this mitzvah. And the man says, I worked so hard. How could you take this away from me? And the man says, you don't understand. I won't be able to exist if I don't have the matzah. I'm going to make it for Pesach. I must have this matzah. So the man says, listen to me. I'll give you the matzah, but I want the schar. I want the schar of the mitzvah. You could have the matzah, but I want the schar of the mitzvah. And he agrees. He agrees, and he gives him the matzah, and he eats matzah that night. In the morning, he was saying Hallel. This child of Rabbanim who ate the matzah, he was saying Hallel, and he got so involved in the Hallel that he started to say too loud. And they used to do it as they worked. They used to say the Hallel. And the Nazi heard him, and he shot him on the spot, and he killed him. So the man had the matzah, ate it. In the next morning, he was saying Hallel, and he was shot for saying Hallel. Says this man now after the war. He made it through the war, the one who put together the matzah. He says, Rav Unga, he says, he came to me in a dream. He came last night, and he begged me. He begged me for the schar. He says, you're alive. He says, you could do mitzvahs. He says, I need this mitzvah. You don't understand. I need this mitzvah in Shemayim. And the man says, I don't know what to do. This Rebbe, I worked 3 months. And we made a deal. And this deal was, I get the schar. He wants to take that away from me. What should I do? And Rav Unga tells him, he said, listen to me, he says, give it to him. The giving it to him, the schar, will increase your schar so much. He says that you will mavater, you gave away your schar after you worked so hard and you cried for it. He says, you're going to get even a greater schar, he says, but give it to him because he can't do anything up in Shemayim. He has to do it, he has to accomplish what he can on earth we have to accomplish. Once you get there, you get nothing. and you made a deal. Unfortunately, it was not a good deal for him. He should have kept the schar if he could have. He gave it to him. This is what Rebbe is saying. Just remember, the schar of a mitzvah is so great that somehow he was allowed to come down from Shemayim in a dream to beg for the schar. He ate the matzah. He got some schar for that. By the way, you get schar for eating the matzah. But for the haravanya, for the work, and for the comfort, that he lost that schar. He gave it away. He says, no. Remember, every single mitzvah has so much schar in Shemayim that you have to grab every mitzvah we can. And with that, I'm going to finish. We should all have a wonderful day. And just remember that whenever we have to do something that's the first loiseho, the first one in order, the proper thing. Have a very good day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.